this particular dude that I met, we're gonna call him O. But before I met him, I was in San Quentin, and I had the luxury of being cellies with two of his co-defendants. Now, O had, I think there was 5 co-defendants in all, and they're all Samoan, except for one of them, I believe. And they were involved in a high-profile case. There was no weapons involved. It was kind of very similar to my case, where, we got in a fight and the person ended up passing away from their injuries from hands and feet, right? Well, this guy O was involved in that kind of a case, except for they were charged with robbery also, along with murder. So I had the luxury in San Quentin to be cellies with 2 of O's co-defendants, and one of them happened to be, kind of like their leader of the gang. And the other guy, I'll just call him Fa. And Fa, he was the youngster out of their whole crew. And so when I was cellies with Fa, he had told me that, about their case, a little bit about their case. And he just basically expressed his feelings towards O. What he had told me, and this is before I even met O ever, never even heard of the guy, never even seen this guy ever before in my life. But Fa had told me that he had felt bad for O because O, he felt, was innocent, in this whole crime that they were accused of and convicted of. And he went to tell me that, O is a football player and he was being scouted. He was a good kid and he was doing really good. He stayed out of trouble and shit. He wasn't really hanging out, on the block or anything and getting involved with stuff. But, he had friends from school or whatnot that, were involved in shit, and, he talked with them. But on this particular night, he was playing football and these friends were there at the game watching. And so after the game was over, they offered O a ride home. So these guys hop into their car after the football game and they take off, and on their way to their destination, they decided to pull off the road and use the bathroom because they had been drinking, doing their thing like most people do, whatever. And, they decided to use the bathroom on the side of the road. Well, a couple of the guys that were there, using the bathroom out there on the side of the road, noticed a person walking by and decided to, pocket check this guy. And they got in a fight with the guy and they ended up beating the guy really bad. And later on, the guy ended up passing away from the injuries that he suffered from the beating. Now, long story short, these guys eventually got picked up and charged with murder. They were painted out to be gang members or whatnot, and that's, besides the point, but that's what they pushed in the trial, that they were heartless gang members and that they went and targeted this man and robbed him and beat him to death. So, hey, that's what happens. You get involved in stuff like that and that's what happens, all right? But the thing about it was, what Fa was telling me was that O never had got out the car. Again, he was just going home. They offered him a ride because they were his friends. And he was in the car. So he got hemmed up for this case. And now he's serving, a life sentence. So basically, from what I understand, only 2 of them went to trial and the rest of them basically took life sentences as deals. The main guy, he took like 25 to life, and then the rest of them took like 15 to life. So, Fa, he told me this story, and he told me about how, that a lot of them wanted to speak up for O, but they were afraid of the older guy who was involved in the case with him, who I happened to be cellies with before this time. So they were afraid of him and repercussions from him if they were to open their mouth or take the stand to speak up for O because O wasn't involved. So Fa was just telling me how bad he felt for O, and it just seemed like it was not right, and he had hoped that O would get an appeal eventually, maybe, or something like that, and hopefully go home, because he felt that O didn't deserve to be in prison. So fast forward years later, I'm talking about years later, at least 4 or 5 years later, maybe 4 years later, I went through high desert and all that, and then I ended up in Solano. So I'm in Solano, and I'm talking to one of my Tongan homies, and he says, "Hey man, I want to introduce you to this Uso over here named O." And I was like, cool, you know what I mean? And I wasn't thinking nothing about it or nothing, but when I met the guy, you know, he introduced himself to me, this Uso, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm O." And I was like, "Oh, you from EPA?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then I threw his co-defendants' names out there. "Oh, you know Fa and them, and that's your co-defendants?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's my co-defendants." And then I was like, "Hey, Us, you innocent, huh?" And he and no bullshit, I'm telling y'all straight, true story right here. When I said, "You innocent, huh?" Man, this Uso, tears welled up in his eyes, and man, he just looked like he was about to break down, man. And I just didn't know what to say, and I was just like, "Man, Us, I was cellies with, you know, some of your co-defendants, and Fa, he expressed that, you know, he always felt bad for you doing time because he felt that you were innocent." And it's funny. O said, "Really, man?" He said that, and I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, man, fuck all of them." That's what he said. So, I guess this guy is really serving 15 to life for just catching a ride home. But, I got to know O, and O's a really good dude, man. Really good dude. But I can tell you guys this right now, man. He's really fucked up over it. He really just doesn't care no more about life. I mean, I watched this man jack his points back up and go back to Pelican Bay. That's how much he just doesn't give a shit. He was in a chill program at Solano, just chilling, you know what I mean? Not having to worry about much shit. And this dude couldn't wait to just, jack his points up and go back to a level 4, back to Pelican Bay, because he just doesn't give a fuck about life. And one of the sad situations that I seen with O when I was there was the time that he had got a visit from his mother. And he wasn't able to get visits because he was in Pelican Bay before he made it to Solano, before his points dropped. And so his mom and them were able to come visit him in Solano. And I remember after the visit, I was talking with him, and he had said, "Man, Ron, man, my mom, she thinks I'm coming home." And I was just like, "What do you mean, And he was like, "Well, when we went to court, right before trial and all that, I decided to take a deal." And he said that his public defender sat him down, and his mom, and basically the public defender told him and his family that if you sign this deal, 15 to life, you will be able to come home, after 15 years. And so, he was young, so he believed the lawyer, and, people encouraged him that he shouldn't go to trial. And so his mom even told him too, "Son, please take the deal so you can come home to us. You'll still be young." And so O decided to take the damn deal. So he took 15 to life, and now his mom comes and visits him, and he's pulling up on his 15-year mark. And his mom tells him at visiting, "Hey, son, why don't you fill out the paperwork so you can come home? Because like your lawyer said, you just have to fill the paperwork out and you can come home." And, O, being in prison this long now, knows, just like the rest of us, that if you're serving a 15 to life sentence, you're most likely not going home for a very long time. If you don't know, anything with the life at the end of your sentence means they can hold you for the rest of your life. So after 15 years, they can hold you for the rest of your life. And the way that things were going with the parole board when I was doing time was when you hit that 15-year mark, you go up to parole, they usually shoot you down for 10 years, 5 to 10 years before you see the board again. And then when you see the board, it's the same thing. Another 5 years, maybe 4 years, maybe 2 years. And they just kind of drag it on like that. That's how they do it for a very long time. You end up doing, 50 years on a 30 to life sentence. So it just depends. Or never coming home. So, his mom asked him to fill out the paperwork so he can come home while he's at a visit. And he told me, he said, Ron, I didn't know what to say to her, man. I didn't know how to tell her I'm never coming home. And he was just like, okay, Mom, I will. And she was like, yeah, son, please hurry up. Fill the paperwork out, because we want you home with us so you can come home. And yeah. So he had to lie to his mom and say that he was going to fill out the paperwork so he can come home. But now he's sitting in Pelican Bay. I think he got transferred out of Pelican Bay. He's on another level 4 now. After that visit, I know O was never the same. I remember a yard alarm going off and O just didn't give a fuck. He wouldn't get down. Just getting a bunch of write-ups, drinking Pruno on the yard, cussing out the COs. He just didn't give a fuck no more about life, and it's sad because, I don't know, but he possibly may be innocent. You're not completely innocent if you're riding with the people who committed a crime, but if the story is true that he was only catching a ride home, how could he foresee that something like that was going to happen? And how can we hold him accountable for that? But, California law, man, they hold you accountable. And that's how it is. So, this is a lesson for everybody out there, for all of y'all, man. It doesn't matter if you're not fucking doing something. If you're just in the vicinity or in the car or friends with the person who commits a crime and you happen to be in the vicinity or be around it, you're going down with it. There's so many people I've met in prison. I can tell you stories for days of people that I met in prison who were co-defendants to someone who just out of nowhere decided to shoot somebody during a simple robbery or a burglary or whatnot, turned it in from a robbery to a murder robbery, so I've met people like that, and it's pretty sad, man. So I'm telling you guys, man, don't take no penitentiary chances. If you know motherfuckers that are doing dirt or they riding around strapped or whatever they doing, man, just, if they any type of friend, they'll understand that you don't want to be involved in that type of shit and that you're trying to, stay the fuck out of prison, right? So I hope you enjoyed this story. And I just want to tell you guys that if you ever get anything out of my videos, like this video in particular, if you learn something from it, you get something out of value, please help the channel grow and, maybe share this video with someone that might appreciate, this type of video. Again, I appreciate y'all always, and it's all love, and you know what it is. Stay the fuck out of trouble.